So India win by 36. Then they take the five-match T20I series 3-2. And we look back at it all, take a look at some interesting series takeaways for both sides on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Ian Bell, Gautam Gambhir, both with me. One stage, it did look like that partnership between Joss Butler and David Malan had us in for an absolute cracker of a chase. It still was an entertaining chase, and Gautam Bhuvneshwar Kumar's class, I guess, was the difference.
Absolutely unbelievable spell, especially in such a high-scoring game. If we can take 3 wickets for 17 odd, it was unbelievable. I thought that throughout the series, actually, he bowled really, really well, and especially making a comeback after such a long time because of the injury, and then you perform the way you do, and when you're bowling a second, defending a target, it's just incredible. Yes, we keep talking about some other bowlers. We keep talking about how impactful Jasprit Bumrah, or for that matter, Mohammad Shami and other guys are. But this guy always goes under the radar. And how useful is he? Once he's fit, he can bowl with the new ball. He can bowl in the middle overs. He can bowl in the death. He's got all the variations. He might not be bowling 150, 145, but then he's just very clever and he's very smart. And sometimes in T20 cricket, you just need smart bowlers as compared to very talented ones.
I mean, England were matching that required rate when Malan and Butler were going all guns, Belly, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar comes in and almost single-handedly turns that around. It's nice that we're talking about a bowler on a day where over 400 runs are scored.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully tonight a bowler wins man of the match, not a batsman. So yeah, an outstanding achievement, really. As I said, he's not blessed with huge pace, but his skill level is extremely high. Swing the ball both ways with the new ball, and his variations, slow balls. And I think as a thinking cricketer, you guys will know him a lot better than me, but he comes across like an intelligent bowler, knows what he's doing, and executed it really well. And to go for that amount of runs in this game is quite an incredible impact he's had in the game. But I agree, in the whole series, he's been fantastic. And you add him in that World Cup squad, very, very skillful bowler.
Yeah, I mean,
and Ronak, just one. When you're defending 225, sometimes you can actually take your time to set the tone. And look at the first over he bowled.
Yeah.
And he got Jason Roy straight away, gave only 1 run. And that is how you set the tone. We keep talking about how batters set the tone, but how bowlers set the tone are even more promising. And today, what Bhuvneshwar Kumar did, because he was not defending 140, he was defending 225. We could have taken his time. And that is why he's just a quality act.
I mean, none for 15 in the first game, bowled just 2 overs, then 1 for 28, none for 27, 1 for 30, and 2 for 15 when he's bowled his entire quota. That's a heck of a comeback series for Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Gautam. And after all the injuries that he's had, we wondered whether we'll ever see the best of Bhuvneshwar back that we saw a few years back. This is perhaps India's biggest takeaway from this series, that Bhuvneshwar Kumar looks at his peak again.
100%. And, the best part is that he can swing the ball, and he hasn't actually compromised on his swing. There was a lot of talk earlier that he doesn't bowl that quick and he is very one-dimensional, but he can now, just because of his smartness and his cleverness, just because he plays so much of T20 cricket, he was always a very good bowler with the new ball because he could swing both ways, and it's always difficult when you can actually swing the ball both ways. But then he's become just very smart in the death overs as well. There were question marks earlier about his death bowling skill, but imagine him and Bumrah bowling together at the last 4 overs. You've got all the kind of skill. He can bowl slow ones. He can bowl both the cutters. He can bowl in the block hole, and he can bowl the slower bounce. He's got all the variations apart from just not having that 140, 145 pace. Jasprit Bumrah and him, the last 4 or 5 overs, probably will be a great asset for Indian cricket.
It's a rare breed. If you look at T20 cricket around the world, the most impactful or valuable T20 bowlers in the world, you think of Rabada, you think of Bumrah, Mitchell Starc, Jofra Archer, all of them capable of bowling 140 plus. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is a bit of a rare breed and still finds a way to be successful. Can you point a finger to it?
Again, I think he's a smart cricketer, thinking cricketer, but again, that skill set again up front, certainly to move the new ball. Any movement in the air, he'll find it. Having faced a fair bit against him, I think he's an incredibly skillful bowler. You can't quite see the difference between an in-swinger and an out-swinger. So again, he has that skill set, and he's adding those extra bits in now, isn't he? And as you said, any time a bowler comes through an injury, you never quite know how they're ever going to come back. But the skill set he showed and the pace off. We talked about the England bowlers and the slow balls generally always going into the batsman. He was showing different variations with the ball actually going away from the right-hander as well. So yeah, I think India will be over the moon actually today with the performance with the bat, but to actually restrict England to under 190, 180, I think it was, I think they'll be so happy with the bowling department and how they've closed out actually a few of the games, certainly the last 2 games, is a real plus, especially when you're thinking of the cricketers that are coming back into the squad who aren't playing in this series.
Hmm. It's a good conversation to have with the aftermath of this game and in this series. We look at takeaways for both teams. And Gautam, this last T20, I'm just trying to think of how important this overall performance in just this fifth and final T20 I know series decider would be to help Virat Kohli just charter plans for the T20 World Cup. They've played the near perfect T20 innings after losing the toss, batting first, and they've had a Bhuvneshwar Kumar come back to form. This game could become very important just going forward when India makes some plans.
Imagine if you get Jasprit Bumrah in place of Natarajan and Ravindra Jadeja in place of Washington Sundar. Imagine the kind of bowling lineup India will have. And the best part about this game was that Hardik Pandya can actually chip in with 4 overs. Yes, he went for a lot in his first over, but the way he made his comeback, if you have Hardik Pandya as your sixth bowling option, it just takes the pressure off the entire bowling lineup. Because if someone has a bad day, then actually Hardik Pandya can contribute. And with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma opening the batting, and then Surya Kumar Yadav, the way he batted at number 3. Plus, you've got Rishabh Pant, you've got Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya, and then if Jadeja can bat at number 7, and then you've got Washington Sundar or Shardul Thakur at 8. I think it looks a formidable side. Yes, very formidable side, but again, World Cup is still a long way away. There'll be a lot of things that can happen during the World Cup, around the World Cup, the form, the fitness, all that stuff can happen. And India is playing a 5-test match series in England, so that's going to be a long tour after that. So let's not think too much about the World Cup at the moment. I think it's just that the best part about this series is the way Bhuvneshwar Kumar has made a comeback after such a long time. Yes, we will keep talking about Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. I'm sure the debate will start from now on whether these two guys should open the batting in T20 cricket till the World Cup or in the World Cup as well. But imagine what Bhuvneshwar Kumar has done in this series, and alongside Jasprit Bumrah, they both can bowl with the new ball, and in the death, it just takes off the entire pressure of the bowling lineup. And that is why we keep talking about the great sides who won the World Cups, who won those big tournaments. It's only because of the bowlers, because bowlers are the one who will win you the tournaments, and you've got now two guys who can actually bowl in any situation.
It's an unenviable job of being the selector to pick 15 out of these 20-25 players to play a T20 World Cup. Ian, it'll be some team if KL Rahul and Ishan Kishan can't fit into the 11.
100%. They're good headaches to have, aren't they, as a selector, to be leaving out world-class players. I think India will be really happy actually at the end of this series. They've chopped and changed, which was okay, and they've missed some big players as well. So to win this series against a fantastic England T20 side, I think India have now cemented themselves as favourite for the T20 World Cup, winning like that against England tonight. And with the final being on the same venue, I think both teams will be happy actually with how this series has gone. But India in particular, I think, are finding, there are still a lot of questions, as Gautam's just said there, that how does this team look and the squad? I'm sure there'll be lots of debate. But I think they're getting a little bit closer. Those decisions are big decisions, but they're getting a little bit closer to, I imagine, their 15 that they want to come and put on a good show at home for the World Cup.
And for me, the biggest takeaway was Surya Kumar Yadav. I know it's early days. I don't like talking too much or expecting too much out of a player so early in his career. But just because of these two innings, and these two innings were so different. In the first game when he made his debut, India lost an early wicket. He came in early and then he has set the tempo straight away. Today, he came after 8 overs. He continued with the same tempo. It just shows how much options do you have and what different roles can you play. And you need players, especially in the T20 World Cup, who can play different roles as well. It's not about one-dimensional players who can only bat in the top 3 and can bat in certain situations. Surya Kumar Yadav is one who can actually bat at a high tempo in the first 6 overs, even after the first six overs, and that is something where India was lacking. Now you've got Rishabh Pant and him and Shreyas Iyer. So for me, the biggest takeaway was him, because I saw completely different 2 innings in different situations.
I was going to say as well, I agree with that as well. I really like the flexibility of India's middle order. You can see that actually changing from time to time, whatever the situation, whatever the bowler and the matchup deserves in the middle, you can see that move, and it doesn't look like it affects that group at all. They're very used to moving around, which I think is a real plus. So I think they'll be really happy with that. And I think the younger players coming into this squad have actually, when England started so well and so aggressively with the ball, it took Kishan and Yadav to just throw a bit more back to England that nearly got everyone going again. So I think the young players into the squad nearly breathed a bit of fresh air and a bit of fight and got rid of a bit of the baggage that Gautam talks about as a senior player. Sometimes you carry a bit of that around. And I think the younger players nearly led the way in terms of, how are we going to be more aggressive back at England?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, and I was going to come to that as a follow-up to Gautam as well, in terms of whether players who come from very much the T20 school or the IPL Mumbai Indians successful brand of cricket, they come into this Indian side, whether that can also change the way some of the seniors tend to play, if it can have a bit of an effect on guys who've otherwise been established as test players or 50-over players, and then also, accommodated their game to T20. These guys come from a different school, don't they, Gautam?
Yeah, people like Surya Kumar Yadav, people like Ishan Kishan, or for that matter, even Rishabh Pant. And that is why it's a responsibility of players like Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma to probably groom them. And probably in T20 cricket, it's much easier because you can go out there and play the way you want to, like how people say that I just went out there to express myself. But come the 50 over, it's going to be different. And that's why Virat Kohli's and Rohit Sharma should always try and help these young players how to actually construct an inning. It's easy to get a 15 ball 40, but it's actually difficult to get a 100 ball 100. So I'm sure whenever these guys get an opportunity in 50 over game, and they'll only get better because sometimes in a T20 games you realize that you don't have enough time, but there's always more time. So there are times when you might have to just construct an inning. You might not have to bat at the same tempo. Yes, everyone would love to bat at the same tempo. I would love to see a batter batting in the same tempo. So Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, especially in 50 over cricket, can actually groom guys like Shreyas Iyer or for that matter Surya Kumar Yadav and probably help them learn how to construct an inning which is going to keep Indian cricket going forward and probably keep in safe hands as well.
Okay. Quick one last word on India before we move to England, Gautam, on a couple of guys who want to make a serious case to be part of the plan for the T20 World Cup. Shardul Thakur has been a bit expensive, but he's taken wickets almost every time India have needed it. Rahul Chahar, who seems to have been tried as a different kind of leg spin option or a spin option to Yuzvendra Chahal. What have you made of their impact, and where are they in the pecking order now if you have to make a call on them after this series?
See, I like Shardul Thakur as a package. He's a very good package. Okay, he might not have the same skill as Bhuvneshwar Kumar or Jasprit Bumrah, but he's a great trier. And if you see just as an overall package, he can actually contribute. If, for example, in T20 cricket, there could be a situation where you need 10 of the last over and Shardul Thakur is batting. He can actually get you that, especially batting at number 8. And at the same time, he's a great try. He can swing the ball. He bowls that knuckle ball. Yes, there are days when he gets expensive, but then he always takes wickets, and you want those wicket-taking options. And when you're playing, that's the reason why I keep saying when you play 6 bowlers, it'll take the pressure off Shardul Thakur. You could play Shardul Thakur, but when you play only 5 bowlers, there'll be always more pressure on people like Shardul Thakur or a young leg spinner like Rahul Chahar. So that's the reason why today India was in a much better situation because they had 6 bowling options. And the moment India had 6 bowling options, I would definitely have Shardul Thakur in the playing 11 alongside. I know it's going to be hard for people like to leave out Mohammad Shami, but I will definitely have Shardul Thakur because he gives me an overall package.
Okay, quick one, Rahul Chahar, Gautam, and I'll move to Ian then.
So again, I think we should not jump the gun. I think he's looked okay. Yeah, Yuzvendra Chahal has done a lot. Yes, he's gone expensive in the first 3 T20s, but I'm a bit surprised that India hasn't looked at someone like a Kuldeep Yadav, who has an unbelievable T20 record. Yes, you want to have a wrist spinner, but you could have a left-arm wrist spinner as well. So he should have been in the squad. And these 2 guys, Yuzvendra Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav, have done really well. Yes, you would always be tempted because there are so many other leg spinners who've done really well in IPL and in T20 cricket. But then Yuzvendra Chahal has been a consistent performer. He will always be my first leg spinner. And alongside him, if there's a second wrist spinner I would look at, it has to be Kuldeep Yadav.
Okay, let's talk about England's takeaways from this. And I don't know how important this one innings would be, even though England have lost this game, for David Malan and his place in England's future plans for T20 cricket, Benny.
Yeah, I think it was an important one. I don't think his place really was under any pressure. I mean, again, his stats and his numbers over a period of time speak for themselves. And but yeah, to come out and play the way he did and the way he played in the power play in particular, that's been the question mark. A bit of a slow starter that when he gets in, he will kick on. But today was probably his best knock, well, by far in this series, but probably for a little bit of time. So, yeah, he showed a few and maybe answered a few critics that were asking a few questions. But again, I think England, as with India, they've got lots of options in this format of the game at the top of the order. Competition for places is high. So when you're in possession, you have to cement your place and keep scoring runs, which, again, is a good place. You want people underneath, pushing the guys who are in positions at the moment. So, yeah, a great game for him. It's just a shame they couldn't quite get over the line. They just couldn't get the impact today. Like India, I think we talked how well India's middle order played, where the momentum just kept coming and coming. England, after that big partnership, couldn't quite get that momentum back up again. So, credit to India with the ball. But yeah, England will look at that, I think, over the next couple of weeks when they start, reviewing this series.
Is there a missing piece in the puzzle for England's T20I setup? They look like such a formidable side, and when it goes together in both the wins they've had, they've been red hot. Is there anything that's missing, or do they just have an off day today? Are there still takeaways? Are there still areas to improve?
Oh, I think there are always going to be areas to improve. I think we've got to give a lot of credit to India. I think India, from ball one today, were outstanding and outplayed England. So the best team today won. I think England,
Right.
we'll leave this series. I think that both teams will be happy after this. They've obviously had, probably, two of the best T20 teams in the world at the moment going at each other. So they'll be happy for that competition, putting themselves under pressure. Owen Morgan talks a lot about putting his squad under pressure. I think he's managed to do that. And they're probably walking away areas. Mark Wood, for instance, they'll be over the moon. Jofra Archer, Rashid, and then there's maybe a few question marks about that. Do you get Moeen Ali in the team? Curran and obviously that bowling attack there. Sorry, Chris Jordan. So yeah, there'll be a few question marks. Jason Roy at the top. You've got people like Alex Hales at home, Joe Root. So just like in India, I'm sure there's going to be a huge debate over the next 6 months what this best team will look like. But I think Owen Morgan will be particularly happy. Yes, they want to win, but I think the experience they've gained, competition they've had in these conditions, I think they'll take a lot from it.
There doesn't seem to be an obvious weakness, Gauti, on this England team. But if you were to look at it in hindsight, they've lost a T20I series, albeit narrowly. What do they need? Do they need one or two things different to just become a stronger unit?
See, look at the difference. What was there today? India was more flexible in their batting lineup. They had pushed Hardik Pandya at number 4. I still believe that Ben Stokes is batting too low down the order. He's just too good a player to be batting at number 5, number 6, probably number 6. That's not his number. He should be pushed up the order, especially when you're chasing such a big target and you've got that momentum. Imagine had he been pushed at number 4 in place of Johnny Bairstow. Yes, you can talk about Johnny Bairstow as an impactful player. Morgan is an impactful player, but for me, I think he's just getting wasted batting at number 6.
I think that's a really good point. I think England have got to find a way of using Ben Stokes with the bat a bit more than they have. We've seen him over a period. He's a match winner, isn't he? And you don't want match winners not facing balls. And you think of today, I think he came in at about the 15th over, so he's got 5 overs to do any damage. The game was done really by then. So I think England will look at that. I mean, again, they do, like India, they have lots of depth and people performing in those roles. But you'd ideally want one of your best players, certainly one of your best players getting out there facing as many balls as possible.
Look, and just another point. I'm not going to take anything away from David Malan. He batted really, really well today. But, had Ben Stokes been batting at number 3, I'm sure he would have converted that 60, 70 into 100. And that is what was needed. That was the need of the hour at that time. Had someone got at 100 at number 3 or 50 odd or 60 odd deliveries, game would have been on because the game was over by the 15th over. So that's the reason I keep talking that England needs to be, because you've got so much depth and so many options, you can be flexible. You can actually rotate your batting lineup. It's not that you have to have a very rigid kind of a batting lineup. And they've got the luxury of Sam Curran batting at number 7. You've got Chris Jordan who can bat. Jofra can bat. So Ben Stokes has to be pushed up the order. And the best number is probably at number 3. And I've said it earlier as well. Jason Roy, Joss Butler, Ben Stokes, and then you've got Johnny Bairstow. This is probably the most dangerous top 4 in any form of the game and in world cricket at the moment.
All right, there is a 3-match ODI series to come. One player that I did forget to bring up, though, Washington Sundar, tends to divide a bit of opinion right now. There's a lot of chit-chat in the air from R. Ashwin himself sometimes on whether R. Ashwin merits a case in this T20I side. And Washington Sundar's had a quiet series to some regards. Gautam hasn't had much opportunity at that. Just thoughts on what plans could be?
I've made my plans very clear earlier as well. That for me, I think Ravichandran Ashwin will be the 4th name on the sheet for the World Cup. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Jasprit Bumrah, and then Ravichandran Ashwin. See, again, just purely from a point of view that he can bowl in the first 6 overs. He can bowl in the middle overs. And at the same time, you need wicket-taking options. Imagine your bowling lineup with Jadeja, Ashwin, Bumrah, and you've got Shardul and Bhuvi. And then Hardik Pandya. I know there's not a wrist spinner, but see, there are not many bowlers or spinners in the world who can take the ball, who can spin the ball both ways. He has that carom board. He has that carom ball. He can bowl with the new ball. He can bowl in the middle overs as well. So it's just about wicket-taking options. I know that Washington Sundar has done really, really well. But do you actually need his batting at number 7 when you've got Ravindra Jadeja? So you need someone who can actually, imagine if you're bowling against Chris Gale, or for that matter, you're bowling against a very or Quinton de Kock, you can actually start with Ashwin, and you would actually be tempted to start with Ashwin. So that's the reason why I would definitely have Ashwin in my plans, especially for the T20 World Cup, and probably the fourth name on the sheet.
Okay, and similarly for England in that case, Ian, the T20 World Cup in India, is there a case to really look for another spinner in that lineup? Will it just be Moeen Ali? Is it about, again, reigniting a debate for whether Joe Root finds a place in this 11? Or can they still be a side that can win a T20 World Cup if they just play one spinner and Abdul Rashid?
I think there'll be the debate and the talk now. It's certainly in the dressing room. I think most T20 teams like to have the balance there, the ball spinning both ways. England at the moment, obviously, yes, I know Rashid does have a wrong one, so he can do both. But it is nice to have the option, isn't it, in your side? And England have got that out-and-out pace. So do they need another medium pacer when they could throw in another genuine spinner? So I think there is definite talk for Moeen Ali, I think, and the way he bats and strikes at the back end as well, he can make a difference. Joe Root, I mean, again, it's him or Milan, isn't it, really, at the moment? You're not going to get away with playing both Milan and Root. So it's an interesting one, how you get him in and whether England want that style player. Obviously a world-class player, but are they going to go more like I said, getting Stokes up to 3, or does Alex Hales come in the mix and you just go out-and-out power because of the depth they have in their batting? So I think there is more discussion. They'll probably be leaning more towards the Moeen Ali one, I think, even though Joe Root had a very good World Cup in India the last time in the T20 World Cup.
All right. Thank you very much, Gautam Gambhir, Ian Bell. That's pretty much a wrap. It's been a compelling test series and an even more entertaining T20I series. ODI is up next. Ian, we'll have you for that. Gautam, I'm sure it won't be long before we get you back on our networks. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's always fun talking cricket. Imagine we still have so many questions unanswered for both these teams, in spite of how much they've given us to talk about in this 5-match T20I series. Be sure to have things covered for the ODIs as well. So do join us then for ESPN Weekend for Match Day, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Story of the T20I series, it's gone the home side's way. India win it 3-2.